Welcome back to Dirty Pretty, the space where we own our feelings, honor our experience, share unfiltered truths, and talk shit, all through a lens of love. Today, we are looking at life through love's lens with my dear friend, Nicole Amaturo. Nicole believes that only when we meet ourselves deeper do we create the love we've always craved. Her work encourages us to see that the relationship we have with ourselves is the foundation for all the relationships we have in our life. She wants us to get our needs met and believes we can accomplish this by first cultivating within what we want in our life. If needed, go get on your love life vest because today we're meeting ourselves deeper by jumping into the emotional deep end to discover the parts of ourselves that we have been disconnected from and live the life we deserve by unapologetically choosing ourselves. Welcome, my friend.
I love the way you put that. That was so perfect.
Thank you. You know what's funny is that I just go to people's websites, whomever gives me the blessing of interviewing them, and just kind of like go through that and then pick out these things that stand out to me. But every time I do the intro, someone's like, "Oh my gosh, that was so wonderful." And I'm like, "It's you. It's
Literally,
all you."
I'm like, I wish I would have had you in my back pocket a few months ago. I was like, what do I do? How do I summarize this?
It's all there for you, and it's all there for you if you want to go and check her out. But for now, let's dive into the conversation that we're here for, which is all things you, how you got here on this path, and the dirty pretty of it all. So, out of all of the things that you could have professionally done, you know, anything in the world, the options are limitless, right? Why coach? Why public speaker? Why writer? Why are you here in this path being this sort of facilitator?
I love that. Well, the why is really just because it came from my desire, right? So I, since I was little, I was always chosen for like speaking parts. I did like morning announcements in eighth grade. The I was picked for like PTA speaking engagements. I was picked for the Board of Education. I was picked for my communion. And my parents used to take me out of the crib just to hear me talk.
Wow.
Right. So I always say like our little girl always has the answers to the questions we ask ourselves as we're adults. Like, what am I supposed to do? Who am I meant to be?
Yeah.
And my whole life, I was always chosen to speak, and people listened when I spoke. And I was a teacher for about 10 years. And when I got on this, when I went on my journey, which we'll talk about, to basically create the love that I dreamed of through self love, I knew I had to meet myself first. Um, when I started to see how deeply it worked and changed my life, I said, I want to give this to other women.
Mm-hmm.
Want to show them like I thought I had this like secret. Like we think it's so hard and it doesn't have to be that hard. So I left teaching. I had no idea. I was literally just desire. I used to watch like Lisa Nichols videos on YouTube and I'd be like, I want to do that. And I'd be like, I want to write a book. But I had no idea what I was going to be doing it on because at the time when I had the desire, I didn't yet create the love that I wanted. I didn't know what this journey was.
Mm-hmm.
So it all started from my path taking me a different way, my soul taking me a different way. And all of a sudden, it was a whole new life that was opening up for me from the life that I had to say goodbye to.
Mm. So there's a thing that we kind of not glossed over. You mentioned it, but for those that are watching or listening, you were a teacher.
I was a teacher for 10 years.
Yeah, what did you teach? What was your subject, like grade, whatever?
Yep, sixth and seventh grade, language arts, writing, English, all that good stuff. Creativity, reading, comprehension, looking deep into passages, all that really good stuff that I'm doing today, just in relation to ourselves. So it's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing, but done in a different way. And my teaching career helped me get to where I am today. And, even my teaching career was from desire. It was what when I was little, I would play with my chalkboard and my books that my grandfather gave us from like his work publishing company maybe he worked for, I don't even know, but he had these books and they were teachers edition. And I used to love, they were so exciting to get the spiral and the teacher's notes and everything. And we would play, me and my sister, and we would just play all day long. That was like our escape. And I became a teacher. And when I lived out my dream, it was like sixth grade language arts. That was what I wanted. That's what I got. Um, and then I moved up to seventh grade, and that's where my career ended.
So on your site, if people go and check that out, they'll be able to see that there's a lot of reference to inner child work.
Mm.
And so, for those that are watching this and listening to this and maybe having some sort of adverse reaction or just some sort of curiosity, like, I don't know what that is, what does that mean? Can you give us like a high level, informative explanation of how this ties into, creating the life that you want and unapologetically choosing yourself, this inner child work?
Yes, I love that. So when we're born, right? We're born whole. There is no there's nobody telling us we can't be something, we can't do something, we aren't something, right? We're just the purest form of ourselves. And our brain is basically like this clean slate, you know?
Mm,
And then we come into the world and obviously, we choose our parents and all that stuff. But through our upbringing, we're conditioned, right? So we're conditioned through who we need to be to survive. It
mm,
goes back to survival of the fittest. So it's like, okay, I need to not need to be so I can't feel so much because
mm,
in this environment I'll die. Right?
mm,
So instead I have to be aggressive and tough. And then we think that's who we are and we grow up being that person until it basically gets outdated because we get burnt out. It doesn't feel like us anymore. We're exhausted, we're drained, we're living against the flow versus with the flow.
mhm,
And we're conditioned through our upbringing, through what people say, parents, teachers, society, right? We're told who we're supposed to be. It
mhm,
takes us away from our truth, and truth is love, right? So it takes us away from love and we live from fear. And
mhm,
fear is anything that's not truth of ourselves, right? We live to be something for other people. We learn to earn love. We learn to earn approval. We learn to not speak our truth. And then we get older and we're creating a life that is actually not in congruence. That's your word, right? Is not in congruence. Whenever I say that word, I'm like, that's a bad word. Um, with our truth,
mhm,
right? So we feel the misalignment.
mhm.
Inner child work is basically going to return to self. And that means that we meet all of our different versions. So when I say inner child, it's not a lot of, when people say inner child, they think, oh, I have to go back to my 7-year-old and play. Like that's not what I'm talking about, right?
Okay.
Inner child work to me is going from, ages conception, really, conception, intention before even
Mhm,
to all the way through where we are today. All our different ages, all our different selves, they hold the key to our healing. They hold the key to the things that we want and we have a desire for in this lifetime. They hold the key to the things that are going wrong in our life and
mhm,
why we feel certain things because of certain wounding patterns, something that happened in our life that we have to basically take back. So if you look at it from a subconscious place, right? It's like subconsciously that's what we are basically attracting from. Or you can look at it like an energetic place of certain wound patterns and certain things are vibrating with a certain time and space. So we have
mhm,
to pull back those parts of ourselves in order to live our life from truth and wholeness.
mm. This is like, so I'm feeling this like energy come through, and whether it's right or wrong, I'll never be able to tell, right? Of like people listening to this and going like, wow, like that's a lot, right? Because instantaneously, my first experience with inner child work was pre-conception,
Mhm.
right? It was like pre the womb, and it was like blowing my mind of like how do I even conceptualize that? That seems so foreign, that seems so like mythic, right? Not real. And so, for someone that's listening to this and they're like, listen, as a kid, I used to eat dirt. So what am I trusting my inner child for?
Mhm.
That seems like a really reckless behavior, right? Because there's an innocence of that. So how would you, and I know that this is like, it could be a big ask. This is, let me know, but how would you explain to somebody how they can find validation from their inner child if they're in that place of, children don't know what they're talking about. They don't have a lot of experience, right? That cultural perspective of we adults are supposed to teach children, but now you're asking me to go back and listen to them for advice?
So the child that ate the dirt,
Yeah. Yeah.
she was just filled with
Me,
wonder,
by the way, it's me. I
right?
ate dirt.
She was filled with wonder. She was
Hmm.
filled with excitement for her world. She wanted to experience her world. She wanted to taste it, touch it, smell it, all of it, right? That's the part I'm talking about. So you want to
Mm.
connect back with that essence of that child,
Yeah.
right? Because of course, children don't necessarily know, like, don't touch the fire, it's hot.
Hmm.
That's not necessarily what I'm talking about, right? It's the curiosity that wanted to touch the fire.
Yeah,
That's
not literal. It's not a literal. Yeah, so you're talking from a space of and correct me, tell me if I'm wrong, right? Like it's to me it's like you're talking from a space of energetics, right? You're looking into the actions of the inner child to understand maybe how that translates into adulthood. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely, because it's your essence. So you have to connect back with your actual essence, which is eternal, which is not ego, right? Which is not of time and space. That's your energy, your spirit, right? That's what you are connecting back with because that is what the world is actually asking for. That is, if you think about if you're, through the divine, God created you in that to be that.
Hmm.
And we take ourselves out of that by wounding through fear, through disconnection from self. So we
Hmm.
want to connect back with the things that are not tangible, like wonder, like joy, like excitement, like emotions, like sensitivity. That's who we are,
Hmm.
right? With even the part of us that is like that are our shadows. That's who we are also. So the
Yeah.
parts that are like don't fuck with me, like I'll fucking tear your hair out. Like that is part of who we are. That's the essence of like I know what I deserve. I know what I believe and I will fight for that. That's
Hmm.
obviously as we grow older, we refine it. We know how to use it. We don't go and attack and pull people's hair. Like, right? But that's what I'm talking about is like the injustice that we feel. Like, no, that's not right. Those are the parts that have like so much magic for us in speaking our truth. And I believe that the things that we've had to overcome the most in this lifetime are the very things that are our magic.
Yes. I really appreciate that you're calling the shadow into this because I think that, and for those that are unfamiliar, the shadow is the part of us that we like to suppress or repress or deny, ignore. We don't want to talk about. It's just very unsavory, right? And so I love that you pulled the shadow into this because I do think that when it comes to learning to love ourselves, there's almost like this threshold that's like, I'll love myself only when I'm perfect. So that means I have to get rid of those sides of me that's like, catch me outside. How about that?
Yep.
That are actually your informant of something is awry. Something isn't going correctly. You need to tune into yourself to understand what you need to get safe. You need to be secure, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that when people hear that, cultivating the love you want in your life, it's about eradicating anything unpleasant. Now, if somebody is watching this and they're thinking that and they're really attached to that, right? And it could be a result of, past traumas or triggers or other relationship dynamics that they've had, give them a little bit idea of why is that important to envelop the shadow or the parts of you that feel unsavory into becoming unapologetically capable of choosing yourself so that you can have the life that you deserve.
Yeah. I mean, I went on this hamster wheel of constantly trying to fix myself in the beginning.
Mhm.
I thought, and a lot of the clients that come to me feel like they need to be perfect in order to create the love that they actually desire. And a lot of teachings will say, you have to be perfect. Basically, you have to make sure you don't do this, and you have to make sure you're not that, and you have to make sure this. And that's not actually the truth. You
Mhm.
just need to accept these parts. So I always say the journey to love or anything else we want in our life is about more of self acceptance than fixing. It's not about fixing, it's about acceptance. And that means our wholeness of who we are, our shadows included. So the shadows are going to come out. So you create the love you want, you can create it all. And then all of a sudden you have the love that you desire, right? And now you're in a relationship. And all of a sudden, when the dopamine and all the excitement wears off, you're left with your stuff.
Yeah.
You're left with his stuff, her stuff, your stuff, all of it. Okay. And now your shadows and everything are coming out. Your saboteur, everything is coming out. And what you said is so amazingly put that when you are when you feel that shadow come out or you feel that attack,
Hmm.
and you know I react like this only if my heart doesn't feel safe,
Right.
then you know you start to trust yourself. You
Hmm.
to learn this shadow has protected me for so long. I can't hate the shadow. How can I
Hmm.
hate the shadow? It has kept me safe my whole life.
Hmm.
So instead, one of the conversations that I had with my husband one time was when we would get into like an argument or a disagreement, there would be my shadow, right, that would come out. And I said to my husband one time, and I couldn't get rid of her no matter like what I did, you know?
Hmm.
And I said to my husband, like in the middle of talking about it one day, I said, hold on, she doesn't actually need to go anywhere. Like, I don't want her to leave. I want to love her. We
Hmm.
need to love her because if she's coming out, there's a message in it for both of us.
Hmm.
So let's keep her around and allow her to be here. So the moment I allowed her to be part of my experience, to be part of me, is the moment she doesn't come out anymore.
In okay, so let me ask this question. Is it that she doesn't come out or that she comes out differently?
So she doesn't feel the need to come out like in relationship with my husband. And I'm speaking with my husband. She'll come out
Sure.
in other ways with different people, right?
Right.
But with my husband today, she doesn't come out that way anymore. She doesn't
Hmm.
need to. I
Yeah.
we both me and my husband both taught her that love is safe here,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
She's not getting attacked here. And if she starts to, it's like, hey, she's gonna come out. You
Yes.
know, there's an understanding there, and he knows, okay, if she's coming out, I'm not holding your heart the way you deserve,
Mm.
right? And in other areas of my life, I realize if she's coming out, you're not safe.
Right. Yes, and I as I said, and I shared with you all watching and listening, Nicole and I are very dear friends. Like we have these conversations all the time, and we're both very aware that we are the type of person that's like, catch me outside. Like we have that reaction. And my experience, as Nicole is describing, was coming to terms with realizing that I was trying to like throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's get rid of her. She's a problem because she can't be controlled. Like
Exactly.
she wants to like dominate. It's on, right? And what I realized, though, very similar to what you're saying, is that these are just elements of myself that are signals that I can use for my benefit. And the shadow is an aspect of the parts of us that let us know this isn't love, this isn't safety, this isn't security. So, being in the work that you're in, and having the it's complex work walking with someone towards the aspects of themselves that they don't love. It's a lot to look at yourself and say, I don't love this about me. I know for myself, it's like it's a mind fuck. You're like, but I'm me. How can I not love me, right? So I hear that you're talking about really enjoying the journey, like the journey with people. But as far as taking that journey with people, give us a little insight into, maybe the difficulties that people might encounter once they decide, and I'm paraphrasing, right? Something could be better here. Like that's what I hear you saying is giving people the opportunity to admit it's okay if you would like something to be better. So give us an idea of, some of the challenges you may find after you make that decision for yourself. This isn't what I want. What happens next?
Yeah, so whatever is built upon that, right? Whatever is built upon those old patterns often crumble.
Yeah.
You know, so you'll have a lot of tower moments in your life where different identities or different relationships, different even business foundations were built on a certain identity. And when, let's say, the identity was around earning love, okay? So now your relationship was built on you doing everything for your partner, you sacrificing of yourself to keep them happy so they stay. And then your business, whatever, remember how we do one thing will be how we do most things, right? So now it's showing up in your business and you're earning your clients' approval, you're earning your audience, your community's approval, you're being who everybody needs you to be. Then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're exhausted and
Mhm.
nothing is working. Nothing
Mhm.
is working, right? Because the what the output is so much greater than the input, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you're putting out and giving to everyone has now depleted you.
Yeah.
So you start to come into that awareness. In that awareness, in and of itself, when you hit that, when the awareness hits viscerally, right? Actual true awareness, not through somebody telling you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point with clients is I will never tell them anything. It will help them come to that conclusion for themselves so they have the visceral change. Me telling them anything doesn't mean anything, right? They have to
Yeah.
that awareness. So when you come to that visceral awareness, that's when everything just kind of starts to look like it's chaotic
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and unknown, and it looks like everything is breaking down, and there's like now you're in this void and this darkness and this mystery space.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like everything is going wrong. And that's the moment where now I say to myself, I ask God for something and he's giving it to me. But I need to get what I have to get what I need first before I get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a lot of times I'll say a relationship, like my relationship has crumbled a million and one times, and then it's rebuilt on a better foundation, a healthier foundation, right? Because my partner rises up to meet me now today. In the past, when I got divorced, the relationship could not keep up with my growth.
Mm-hmm.
My partner wasn't able to grow with me. It wasn't happening, so the relationship dissolved, right? It ended. So when you're on this journey with self to actually living a life of truth and no longer self-abandoning, you have to be prepared for things to die. You have to be prepared for things to fall.
Woof. I mean, honestly, I feel like that is the most honest piece of information you could ever receive about coaching and really about, in my opinion, any containership. Of course, it's all dependent upon what you're getting into containership for, therapy, whatever. It's so important to understand. And I'm really glad that you explained why the shadow is important because it gives you that signal. But in those moments where you're in the darkness and you're in overwhelm and you're like, holy crap, I can't even see the future, right? And it feels really overwhelming. It's my experience that that shadow comes to save you. So for people that are like, I'm still not into acknowledging the parts of me that I consider scary, unpalatable, whatever it is, but now they're in the darkness. Can you give them an idea of how the shadow helps them thrive and also find safety with themselves in that dark place?
So in those spaces, the shadow is going to come out and you're going to feel like the martyr, the victim, right? You're going to feel like nothing goes my way. I'm always struggling. Everybody else gets what they want. Those are all your shadows.
Mm,
You want to get to know them deeper and in especially in the void. In the void, your shadow stuff is your patterns, your unconscious patterns that you are showing up with in this world are going to come out a million times over, right? Because you're dying. So your ego's clinging on tight and it's going to give you everything.
yeah, and this is not a physical, real, like your physical body is not dying, right? Give them the idea of what's dying.
Yeah, so dying is the identity, the patterns,
There you
right?
go.
So we will, if we're doing life the way I say, right? If we're doing life right, we're gonna have a million deaths and rebirths in our life.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're meant to evolve, evolution. That's why we're here, right? So the more that you can't evolve unless you allow something to go. So
Mhm,
these patterns are the death. So when you're
mhm.
in these different rearrangements, right, into the new reality, into the new self, then you have to allot for the shadow that's going to come out. The mechanisms are going to come out in the numbing, right? The scrolling, the addictions, so you don't feel. It's going to come out as the blaming, the defensiveness. It's going to come out as the martyr, the one that wants to be saved. All of your stuff is going to come out big time. You're going to see when you're blaming your partner for things. And then this is the radical alchemy. This is the alchemy because the more that you can be with that and spot it and be with the awareness of it without judgment, just like in a very this is interesting. Wow, look at me go.
Yeah.
Like you're watching yourself from like this bird's eye view, like, wow, look at me go. Like I can have a conversation with Gary, my husband, and be like, oh, look at you, blaming him for your shit right now. Like, wow, look at you go.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
And that's how, so that's creating intimacy with self.
Mm-hmm.
Scared of self, where none of us are perfect. None of us are. So
Right.
the more that we can allow ourselves to actually be with and laugh about, like I just laughed about my projections and my blame and everything, right? Then
Yes.
then you can allow for grace with self.
Yes.
And in the grace with self is the self-acceptance that comes in of like, okay, these are my personality mechanisms. This is the way Nicole Amaturo was built to be in this personality in this time and space right now. And that's kind of cool. Like she's only going to be here once. And
Yeah.
that's really cool is this identity. So let me really get to know her. Let me understand how she operates. Let me understand what made her the way she was. Let me get really intimate with self. So many of us want to be met by our partners. We want to be met by life. We want to be met by our business, but we don't know how to meet self.
Yes. I hear you saying something really important that I want to point out as well, which is when you're going through that period of, the ego death that Nicole is referencing, you don't always want that.
No,
Sometimes you cling.
you don't
Sometimes
want it. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, and because it's unfamiliar and our brain is designed to keep us safe and what's familiar feels safe, right? And so sometimes when you are having that ego death, I think it's important to remember that you'll come back around, like you're talking about with Gary. There are moments where you're like, I am in my truth, I'm feeling solid, I'm feeling stable. And then there's moments where you're reflecting, being like, oh shit, I'm doing that shit again. And I think that people think that coaching therapy is just one and done. And, it's a very non-linear experience. And while Nicole is describing what it can be like as you traverse that experience, I do think it's important to also pause and reflect and mention that you'll go 10 steps forward, like Paula Abdul, like 10 steps forward, 10 steps back. Like it is an oscillating experience, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's why sometimes I say life was easier before I started this journey, this work, right? Even it wasn't, but it was because it's like, oh my God, I don't feel like I died so much.
Yes.
Yeah. There's
Yes.
so much rearrangement that happens because we ask God for something. We ask the universe, whatever you believe, right? And it responds, right? They give it to us.
Yes.
And but we don't understand the language. We don't understand what life is saying to us.
Mhm.
So that's when we go into self-blame, we go into trying to fix ourselves. These are all our survival mechanisms to try to keep ourselves safe.
So you're literally saying, "These are the things that I dislike about my own work," right? The fact that it is not constant. We would all love everything to be constant. We would all love to have a continuous amount of money in our bank account, feel like we know our shit, and we feel really congruent in our relationships. It's not constant. It's unpredictable. And sometimes what you ask for, be careful what you ask for,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So you who are, a facilitator of this work, and this is what I love about Dirty Pretty and having these conversations is, the thing I say all the time is I love my husband. He loves me unconditionally. I know that from our relationship, but sometimes there is just shit that he does that irritates the living shit out of me. And you can have that both and experience, right? You can have love with there being irritant and nuance, because that's also reflective in how you approach the relationship with yourself, right?
That's it.
So
Exactly.
these are some things that you dislike, right, about the experience. Give us what you would say are like maybe the top three things that you absolutely love about your work that maybe makes you feel excited about getting up in the morning or continues to propel you forward despite all of these dislikes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't really want to even say I dislike that because I actually have learned to like it.
Sure,
Okay. So like in the beginning, and I don't want to say I've learned to like it, but I've really learned to be alive for it.
sure.
Okay.
Yes,
In the past, I would say probably a year ago, it was more like, oh my God, like why are we here? I do everything I'm supposed to do. That's all my victim, right? I do everything I'm supposed to do. I show up the way I'm supposed to, and blah blah blah. And life is this, and life is that. And it was like all that stuff of clinging on and all the shadow stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to a place of being like, yeah, that might show up for a moment. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to be alive this time.
Yeah.
Be just as alive for this right now as I am for when things go my way.
Right, right. Yeah, because it's all a part of the building experience that makes you more whole, more full, more aware, right?
Yeah, it's living. So
Mm.
I think that that's where we go wrong is we think that when the shit hits the fan, we did something wrong and that's not life. I've learned that that's life. That's living.
Yeah,
Just as much as you can be alive for that, these moments is going to be an indicator for how alive you're going to be able to receive the good moments.
right. Yes,
You know what
absolutely.
I'm saying? So
I do, I do.
I really learned to to I want to say, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? To kind of like revere
Mhm, mhm,
these
mhm.
times because I understand the gold in them,
Yes, yes.
understand the miracles that are on the other side. So now when you ask me, like, what do I really love about it? The miracles.
Yeah.
More that we presence what's here in the void, in the darkness, in the shadow, that these are act that's the gold. Because we are alchemists. We can change forms, right, of energy. So we alchemize all of that lower density stuff. And then the more we're honest with ourselves, the more that we are can look within and take self-responsibility, the more that we don't project out onto everybody else and blame, that creates the miracle that's on the other side. And when I say miracle, it can look anything. It can look from a parent that came around and apologized for something that you never thought in a million years they would ever see.
Mm,
It could be money that landed in your bank account that you had no idea was coming. It could show up in health being restored. It shows up in miraculous ways because it's alchemy. So just as heavy as it was when you actually presence it and you do the work within to be with self, it's going to be even that magnificent of a reward on the other side.
yes, yes. The way that I always process this for myself is for as deeply and as intensely I can feel joy and love and romance and passion, I had to accept, and this is what I always call like having your head talk to your heart. I had to accept that logically, if emotionally I can feel that intense on what I'd call, the good side of things, right? Then I have to accept that I can feel as intense on the unpleasurable or the, things that I don't like. Because what I hear you saying is that you can dislike something or have something not be your favorite, but still regard it as vital, regard it as true, regard it as necessary.
Absolutely. And respect it. I've
Yeah.
learned to respect it.
So if somebody is in a relationship where they're, prioritizing externalities versus themselves, right? They're not used to prioritizing themselves. They may be out of balance with learning how to respect the dynamic elements of them, right? And that's what I hear you really referencing. Take it all, wrap your arms around it, and love all of it. Because that's what love is. Love is loving something as it is, not trying to change it. You're loving it for all it is, and it isn't. So if somebody is like, I don't know how to respect these peaks and valleys and these ever changing, I call it like the magic of mania. Like all these parts were like, oh my God, everything's moving so fast. So how would they then how would you prescribe or suggest that they come to terms with respecting the things about themselves that they regard as something staunchly unacceptable? They can't respect it, they don't like it.
Yeah. It's a willingness.
Mm,
Right? It starts with the willingness and the willingness to want to.
mm,
That's where it starts. So there's places of forgiveness. Like I am so angry at this person and I'm not there, but show me. I hate this part of myself.
mm.
I don't want to anymore. Show me. I'm willing.
And when you say show me, right, for somebody that is, again, out of practice, not familiar with this, like where are they seeking the answer from?
Yeah, I love that. So show me is in the aha moments when you're in the shower. And right, they come through of like, oh, yeah, I had to be that. She was protecting me. Or it's in the moments in a conversation with a friend that just comes through of like, your friend may be mirroring to you of the grace that she has for herself, and
Mm,
you're learning from that. So it's in the small titrations throughout a day, throughout life, right? It's not a I didn't get to this place where I am today, and I'm not perfect by any means, but to be able to accept these parts of myself, to be able to love these parts of myself, I didn't get there overnight. That took titration and allowing life to guide me. So don't go looking for it, right? Allow life to show you. When I say allow life to show you, I mean in the moment that you're in your present, where what is life inviting you into? What are you
mm,
feeling? What scenarios are being thrown in your face or constantly shown to you? What patterns? What feelings? Life is inviting you into something. Life always speaks.
mhm.
So it starts with the willingness and allowing ourselves to just be where we are, the acceptance of, okay, I am not there yet, and that's okay.
So I'm curious about something now that you say that, and thank you for expanding upon that because I really, that's very important, particularly in the realm of support, right? Like one of my very first coaches said to me, like, Shannon, you can't coach the unwilling. You only coach the willing. And so that's something that you have to reconcile with yourself. But as you're describing all of this, and I'm thinking how like the titrations and like there can be a build up to willingness. That happened for me. I needed to build up to finding my resolve to be able to drink from a fire hose with all of the shit I felt like I needed to clean up in my life, right? My shadow was like on fleek. So I'm curious, do you feel like going back a little bit, do you feel like your role as a teacher for children was perhaps an introductory to your willingness to be able to hear your inner child tell you?
Absolutely. I mean, as a teacher, I know I was teaching almost all, very much all the grades, just between my student teaching, my 90 hours, everything, right? Um, and I just watched their innocence slowly get taken from them. So
Yeah,
I looped also with my sixth graders to seventh graders. So that means looped means I taught sixth grade with them, and then moved up to seventh grade. So I
yeah,
looped and I watched their innocence get taken from them. When I say their innocence, I watched them self abandon to try to fit in.
yeah,
When I know who they really were in sixth grade, right? Who they truly were, that they were self abandoning to fit in, to be cool, to be loved, to be liked. And I got to know myself deeper. Like my sixth grade self was uncomfortable in her skin. She was awkward, right? She didn't feel good in her body. And teaching sixth graders, for me, I never really reflected on this question the way you're asking it, Jen, but it helped me to understand myself better because I was put in a realm with me.
yes, yeah. And I asked that, yes,
To understand myself deeper, to understand the awkwardness, to love the awkwardness because I saw it in another student that I loved,
yeah,
you know? And that helped a lot. It was really hard, to be honest. Like my fifth grade self, I would say my fifth grade self was really hard for me to look at for a really long time. I wouldn't even look at pictures of her. Um, I wouldn't show the world. And through this healing and through this work, like she's somebody I show to the world, always show a picture to describe her, understand her. I love her. Um, I hope she's proud of me. I show
mm,
her who we're turning into. I validate her pain. And that is all the stuff that helps to the acceptance and the allowance of her to be part of our lives. I think what women what we do, especially in dating, in business, we try to be the cool girl, the pretty girl,
mm,
okay, the popular girl. And when we're trying to be that, there's an invitation that there's an unhealed part of yourself that never felt she was,
yeah,
right? So
Is that why you didn't, is that why you've had a difficult time looking at your, fifth grade girl? Because there was still some, I don't want to say resentment, but like a little bit, that you were holding on to?
yeah, like you caused me pain, right? She was awkward in her skin. She was always loved by her peers. Like she was never made fun of or anything like that, thank God.
Yeah.
Um, but she was just picture it was like my mother gave me this like terrible haircut. It's like curly, really terrible haircut, chubby. I was gained weight. I was really chunky in this uniform. Then my mother wouldn't let me wear my uniform above my knees. So it was like past my knee. I was so awkward and uncomfortable. Right. And I think that was like the hardest part to look at because I would look at her and I'd be like, but that's not me. But that's how I felt then.
Yes.
I felt this isn't me. But the choices my mother made, let's say with how to do my hair, how to dress me, it was like that, but this doesn't feel like me.
Mm-hmm.
And even the weight I gained, this doesn't feel like me. I'm uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's hard to look at that.
Yeah,
Right?
you felt disconnected from her.
Absolutely. So then when I started dating, it was
Mm.
like I finally got to be the pretty girl. Like I finally got to be I got breast implants, I got laser treatments, I had extensions in my hair. I worked out all the time. It was like, "Oh, now I can get whatever I want. I get to be just the pretty, the beautiful girl, right? That all the guys are going to want." When I
Mhm.
had a missed experience as a little girl of that, right? So
Yeah.
now I go into the dating arena and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm attracting like good-looking guys, but they're also a bunch of assholes. Like, wait a hold on.
Yes. Only skin deep. Yes.
Yeah. They were just as interested in my outside because I thought to be lovable, it meant my outside had to be beautiful. And that's a lot of the message I received as a child.
Yeah.
That's when I had a basically, very um coming home moment with myself of damn, I think I escaped her, but she's following me.
Mm.
She's
Yes.
following me. I'm dating with that little girl's pain and that little girl's wounds. And that is when my life changed. That is the defining moment when my life changed.
And there's a section on your website where you don't explain the story, but you do have an excerpt that does describe that moment of realizing that you're not a fixed individual. And I love looking at all the pictures of your little self on the website as well. I think it's so, so cute. But yeah, the reason why I asked this question is I realized the same thing with my niece. My niece will be 10, and I feel like I learn through her all the time, and she teaches me how to return, which I feel like what you're describing is a return to innocence. And I think as adults, we feel like we're not allowed because we've experienced too much, or however we orient to innocence, we remove ourselves from that category. But as sure as you're sitting here describing this experience that you have, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so I'll reference myself, in my experience that's similar to yours, the more that I got to see what the relationship was that I had to myself that maybe was causing the disconnect or creating contention or resistance or whatever, the more I started to learn newness about myself. And the newness brought the innocence back. Right. And so I feel like perhaps, and I don't know if you consider this for yourself, but that's what it almost sounds like you're helping people to do. Walk them back to their innocence, which is rooted in the fact that who you are is not here to piss anyone off. Who you are is not to have a bad time. You want to have a good time. You don't want to make anyone else have a bad time. And I hear that there's a real innocence in love for you that you're welcoming people to experience, because love, just like any relationship, I always say this: money's a relationship, food's a relationship, forgiveness is a relationship is a relationship, right? You're walking them back to appreciating that their love is nuanced, just like all the relationships they have in their life is nuanced. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. My favorite thing is watching people come home to themselves. It's like
Mhm.
you could spot the visceral reaction in their body of, wait a minute, like I'm not broken.
Yeah,
Like, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with me. And
yeah,
that is my favorite thing, right? When they return home to that part of themselves of, I think I did a workshop with about 25 college students one time, and I had asked them, What how many of you feel like there's something wrong with you?
Mm.
Okay? And
Wow.
every single hand went up. Every single hand, including myself, right?
Yeah.
Every single hand went up. We all walk around with the underlying wound of there's something wrong with me. I'm broken. There's
Yeah.
something I have to keep people from me.
Hmm.
I cannot be loved for who I am. Let me protect other people. Let me protect myself. Love isn't safe. Even the love is anywhere, right? Love friendship, love relationship, love even business, allowing the world close to you.
Hmm.
If you feel like, and you're compensating with all of these external things, all of money, success, all of this stuff is just hiding the deeper wound, right? So it's like I'm very confronting in a beautiful way for people
Yes.
because they meet themselves so much deeper and realize all the mechanisms they have used to hide their secrets, to
Yeah.
hide their abilities. And when they come home to themselves and they realize that they are lovable just as they are, it's demonstrated oftentimes through, for the first time in their lives, the work that we do together and me modeling that grace for them.
Hmm.
Right? So, something that was reflected to me recently was your belief in my group program, your belief in our power helps us to believe in it.
Mm.
And I think that at first I was like, oh, wait, I don't want codependency. Like, wait a minute, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know what? That's connection. That's how they're healing. They're
Yeah.
right through modeling, through seeing for the first time in their lives that they are accepted and wanted just as they are in this space, nothing else. There no masks need to be worn here. I share my truth. I share my vulnerabilities. That's not easy to share. So many women are overcompensating trying to be these things and they wonder why men are ghosting them, clients are ghosting them, business is ghosting them because they are ghosting themselves. They are self-abandoning. They're not allowing themselves to be who they are because it
Right.
causes pain in that, let's say, fifth grade self,
Hmm. Yep.
right? So that's why the work is just, even though we go through the challenging moments of the work, the reward is just so beautiful, so great.
Yeah, because if you, I know it sounds so cliche and people think that it's phooey. I thought it was phooey for a long time. But if you don't love yourself and you don't know yourself and you don't see yourself clearly, then anytime somebody has a reaction to you, good, indifferent, or otherwise, you mirror that reaction because you don't know how to hold your own authenticity. And I love that you pointed out abandoning, right? Because the more, especially in the child reference, right? You seeing the looping from the children going from sixth grade to the seventh grade, and you're seeing them self abandon so that they can fit in. That transverses time. That comes with you, that pattern of behavior. And I really appreciate that you're bringing up the fact that you work with people on understanding relationship dynamics so that they can understand where they're choosing, like you did, right? Like you were focused on your externality and you attracted all these people that were skin deep. They were focusing, right? You were the energy that you attracted, and you put that on your website as well, right? But I appreciate that you're teaching people how to walk into a relationship and see, okay, so this is something that maybe you've had before, maybe you've experienced it, maybe it's the model, but you don't have to choose this.
Exactly. Exactly. The more that, and that's the thing is, even with love, right? A lot of people don't have a model of what it is that is possible for them. So just rearranging like allowing awareness into the beliefs around love or beliefs around men, the beliefs around women, all of that is the first parts of it, because nobody that I've worked with really have a model of like a beautiful love.
Sure, it's messy. Life is messy.
It's so messy. There's so much trauma around it from
Mhm.
what we've all seen in our background, right? In our so just rearranging, and they don't even allow themselves to have a desire for
Yeah.
it. Like people will come to me for love, but then when we're in container, I'm like, okay, so what's your intention? They're like, I just want to learn to love myself and forgive myself and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's beautiful. What do you want on the other side of it? And
Yeah.
they have a hard time saying, I want a love with a romantic partner. They're
Yeah.
scared to say it.
They
So
can't conceptualize it.
they're just so scared that it's not safe. So when you
Mhm.
ask yourself, like, how safe does it feel to be loved and to be in love? That's a big one because our mind might say, oh, it's great, it's amazing. And then it's like when you start to actually think about it, what is your body actually saying? How safe does it feel to let somebody in that close to you to see your imperfections, to actually witness who you really are, that little fifth grade self that's not the cool girl, that's not the one that everybody wanted. Like, where are you covering that stuff up?
Mhm. Yeah.
You're gonna let somebody in to see your imperfections, your shadows, your pain. That means you're safe to be loved. If you don't feel that, you don't feel safe to be loved. Remember, we can only allow what we feel safe having.
Mhm.
To reconcile ourself and love ourself then allows for the safety to another to come close.
But you pointed out something really vital, I think, is like you have to understand what love is for you. And that was a big I guess mind opener, like brain expander for me when I was going through my journey myself, is realizing I was only operating under a model that I had been shown. And there were so many aspects of that model that were
Mhm.
incongruent for me, that I actually had to sit down and like kind of take it as a take and replace, right? I had to really look at it. This isn't love. Okay, I'll take that. That is love, right? Really defining it for myself so that I can know when I'm in the presence of something that feels like it should be loving and it isn't, then that becomes another thing that you're like, oh, yeah, this also isn't love for me. You just acquire more information about yourself as you grow. And I think that that's the important part that people maybe aren't introduced to, or our society doesn't want us to know. I don't know why. But as you evolve and you change, that definition that you had of love, that's going to evolve and change too. And
Exactly.
you being annoyed at yourself that you are inconsistent and that you change is again another act of self abandonment.
Absolutely. But people, we got the message, right? As little people, that it wasn't okay to change.
That's right.
You asked for chicken nuggets and now you want a hamburger. Like, I already bought you the chicken nuggets. Why do you change your mind? It's like things like that that are so simple, right? That you get in trouble for, and you learn, oh, I
Yeah,
can't change my mind. I can't change my mind,
that's right.
right? That's
Yeah,
like such a
that's so
simple.
true.
It's so true though.
It is. Yeah.
And we and then especially as just feminine beings, like we're just all over the place.
Yeah.
And I used to think that I was too much, and I realized I was just attracting men that didn't know how to hold my capacity of being all that I am, the full spectrum that I am. So
hmm
I always felt too much for people.
Yes.
I had to
Yeah.
redefine, like you said, redefine what love was. Somebody that can handle me in my full spectrum. Like, I don't have to change who I am to be
Mhm.
myself. I used to think love was me accommodating other people,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. hmm
So that was love. Me protecting other people. That was love,
Yeah.
right? At the expense of my pain. That was love.
hmm
So we have to rearrange our ideas of what love was so that we actually convince our brain, wait a minute, this is safe. Our body, wait, hold on. We're going to create a love that's safe for us. All the
hmm
other ones we didn't know, that wasn't safe.
Right. And in the world there's a very rigid it's like we have a small window of tolerance in our world, it feels like. And if you breach too far out of what is accepted, then you almost feel like you're in trouble or you're doing something wrong or somebody will chastise you. And the art of what you're teaching people, I believe, and you can add in, change, correct, whatever you feel is necessary here, but I feel like the art of what you're teaching people is understanding how to love yourself and know the nuance of yourself, so that if you meet someone that's like, I really don't like that you're a little bit, erratic and you change all the time. Your response isn't to abandon yourself and change. It's not to force them to abandon themselves and change. It's to say, that's okay.
Exactly.
That's not for you, but that is me.
And stop internalizing it.
That's
That's
right.
right. So we internalize it and make it about ourselves. Of, oh, I need to be this or I need to be that if somebody's going to love me. And that's how we got to this very place. So when
hmm
you get to a place where you're making no meaning out of it anymore, where you're like, oh, all right, I see you. and
Mhm.
your experience is right, and I see me, we're just not aligned. Cool. It means nothing about me and it means nothing about you. And you could walk away like, whoa, like that's a miracle moment, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a miracle.
Yeah, especially for people who are constantly on the defense because of that abandonment. We don't realize that we're defensive because we're so used to abandoning ourselves that we don't know how to protect ourselves. So we're defensive.
So true.
And so when we get to the place of realizing, like, like for instance, Scott, my husband said something to me last night. When I hear music, I'm very, very critical of music. And so initially, my first response is, I don't like it. Pretty much, pretty much. And he's like, well, he was giving me an example of that. And he said, well, you didn't like it. A song came on, and he's like, but now you love it. And I'm like, that maths, that sounds like me. That sounds right. But in the past, I would take offense. I would be offended by my own offense of like, I am really this way and I'm offended by it. But what I hear you saying is the miracle is that innocence in it of being like, I'm not trying to upset anyone. It's just innocently authentic. And so when I talk to people about my work and your work, I hear in there like it can come across really heavy because there's a lot of siphoning and sifting through shit and like, that's not mine. This is, experimenting. There's just so much newness that can happen in our work. But the fun of it, I hear you talking about happens in the miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the part where you get to kind of what I would call just like chill the fuck out. And I know that that sounds really foreign to people, or it can feel almost disparaging to people because they're like, for me, always wanted to be chill in my love, but it seemed so hard. And when you get to that place, that is what we're calling the miracle, right? So like when people come to you, I don't know if you ever have this experience, but you're vetting whether or not you're going to be the right coach for them and whether or not they're going to be the right client for you and vice versa. It goes both ways. Do you ever get met by resistance of people saying, this seems too heavy?
Yeah.
No, get out. I love that.
They're like, I want what you have.
See,
Not
and
not what I have, like not my things.
sure.
They want that feeling of self-acceptance. They want that feeling of peace within self. They want that feeling of alignment and ease. Like they're just like, I don't know what you have, but I want help. Give me the medicine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
never once did anybody say this feels so heavy. This feels too heavy to do. Like
Mhm.
never. It's always like just like you're aligned or you're not aligned. It's like, yeah, let's go. And here's the thing. I don't make it heavy. Like we have fun together. We laugh together. We cry together, right?
Mhm.
Like it's a connection. It's a beauty of coming home to self. It's not about it's not about making it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, this isn't about like deconstructing you because you're broken.
Oh, it's about it's self-acceptance. That's what the work is. In the beginning, I want to say my work probably felt much heavier and I felt much heavier because
Yeah.
of fixing. I thought we had to fix ourselves. I thought if life was lifing, then I did something wrong.
Yeah.
So then my clients felt like that also. And
Yep.
that's not the case. The case is okay, life is lifing. What do we need out of this? What's the invitation? What's the medicine? Like, let's do this. And they
Yeah.
often will come to a call feeling like in a group call and they're like, I'm not going to say anything today. Like, I'm just really heavy and just going to listen. And then all of a sudden they're speaking and they're like, and then we connect, I coach them through things. We talk with and they're like, God, I feel so much lighter.
Mm.
Just being seen in your stuff and realizing, hey, I'm normal. Hey, life's lifing. This isn't the destination. This is just the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
There's a light coming.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that you say this is not the destination.
Yeah.
And because to me, that also sounds like it's not the destination for you. Right? There's still an open door of, you could become something else after this. You were already a teacher. And so there's like this free passage that occurs when you just accept yourself because you also accept that you're constantly evolving and it becomes less of what's going to happen next and
Mhm.
more of, ooh, what's going to happen next.
Exactly. Or you almost you have to anticipate the algorithm. Like, you're like, oh, all right, I got a new awareness. Shit's about to go down.
Yeah. Yeah. Then
right?
yeah, that is true. Yeah, totally true.
Like,
So
okay, it's coming.
yeah, you keep yourself open, you keep yourself flexible. And because you said, I love that you pointed out, I'm not the model. You're not the example, you're an example. And
Yeah,
you're trying to set an example with your example.
absolutely. Like I will never sell my life. And I think that in coaching, that's the part that I dislike is
Yeah.
people sell their lives. Like, look what I have, look what I have, look what I have.
Mhm.
And then people that want that life get charmed into it, right? They get charmed into it. And what I am going to sell is yourself.
Yeah.
It's about you. It's a way of being. It's a
Yep.
way of navigating life because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you do this stuff, life is going to be easy. I'm going to actually teach you the real nitty gritty about what life is and how we navigate it and how we create the ease in life through these ways of being
Hmm.
versus
Yes.
struggle and like life there you're meant to have some sort of suffering or struggle in life, right? Like that's life. That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
I mean we have to stay in it and it doesn't mean it has to be painful while we're in it.
that's right. That's right.
And when
So
you have that support of like a mentor, coach, a therapist, like you're seen in it and you see things in a new way and you come home to yourself so much deeper than you would have without it.
hmm. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly because my perspective, as I said it before, everything in life is a relationship, including your relationship to life.
Yes.
And if you're constantly looking at love as, it's either all or nothing, then you're not really going to have the opportunity to love your life if you're trying to make it perfection. You're trying to make there be no flaws, no unpredictability, no death, no grief. You're living a different game because life contains actually all the things you're trying to resist.
Exactly. Life has the medicine, life has the invitation coming from a Virgo. Like perfection. Like perfection was my middle name. It was like, and perfection was just a way I got to hide shame.
Yeah,
You know, perfect
exactly.
it was what I hid behind. So, there's elements, don't get me wrong, of like, I like things just so, but that's because it makes my body feel really good when my space is clean and organized and that kind of
Yes.
stuff, right? It's no longer to have the nice car, the beautiful house, assets so that I could say like, "Look, I finally made it because of all the shame I'm actually carrying in my childhood and in the past." That's not
Yeah.
there,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
anything built on that will fall because especially now we're moving all from heart.
Hmm.
Ever have.
So for those that are watching this and they're really inspired and maybe even a teacher. I have a lot of teacher friends. I don't know how that happened. But they're watching this and they're thinking of a career shift or to something similar to you. Maybe not, exactly what you do, but they want people to see themselves too. They want to be a co-conspirator of more love in the universe and less perfection. What do you think that people considering making that shift should know?
Oh, well, I'm like, "Oh, there's a lot.
Oh.
This is
Oh.
this is a loaded question." Um, First, if you have a desire, then whatever is on the other side of that is meant for you, right? So if you're
Mm,
feeling cold, then that is an invitation from your soul as guiding you to whatever it is that your soul signed up for in this lifetime. So the first thing is to trust that voice, trust
mhm.
that desire. When you do that, you just have to be prepared for the medicine that's on that journey.
Woof. Because you don't know what it is. And I really appreciate that honesty, right? There is no way of knowing, but I also agree. My inclination is that if you think something, I know we've been largely raised in a puritanical society that teaches us not to trust our bodies, not to trust our feelings, not to be creative, not to think outside boxes. That, if you feel an inclination of something, it's generally your future self on the line.
Yeah, I love that.
Like,
Exactly.
I'm here for you, bitch. Pick up the fucking phone because I'm gonna keep calling.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was gonna say is you get to choose which hard you want, right? The
Yes.
harder to stay in a place you don't belong than to actually be in congruence with your soul's journey
Mhm.
and follow that path, that will be where there will be the most ease, even in lifing, because you're
Right.
not fighting against yourself. When we fight against ourselves, that's where like immunity issues, what am I saying?
Your nervous system?
Autoimmune
Oh,
issues come
yeah.
into play, right? Because we're fighting against self.
Mhm.
So we have to stop fighting against ourselves because of what society tells us, our families tell us. And that takes a brave, courageous character.
It sure does. And it's not, and I think it's worth noting, like, you deciding to change is not in spite of someone. And that is so important that I think be mentioned. Like, I don't think it could be mentioned fucking enough, right? Like, me making this choice is not against you. I am not trying to retaliate against you. I'm just trying to be more honest. Like, that's really all it is, more honest. And in that honesty, you have the opportunity to not only deepen yourself, but also deepen connections and attract more of you, like you said on your website and you said here today, more of the energy that is congruent for you, right? Be the energy you want to attract in the world. And sometimes that requires looking at yourself and saying, like, I don't really like this aspect of how I'm performing life right now. I need to make some changes. I need to dig into my heart. I need to see where I'm operating according to externalities. And it can become at first shot very overwhelming, I think, to look at down the road and go, I have no idea all the changes that are lying ahead of me. But what I hear you saying is kind of just take it one step at a time, let life, and then trust yourself to be in flow with it. Because if you're not, life is going to give you, a speed bump and shoot you in another direction, essentially, right?
Yeah, one step.
So, I'm sorry, what was that?
I said one step at a time. One, be here, right?
Absolutely.
Future trip. Be here and just it was like kind of like when I was scared of love and actually committing. And my therapist said to me, can you choose him for today?
Hmm, beautiful.
Can you choose him for today? Can you choose this for today?
Mm.
This for today.
You choose you for today. Love it. So why, given these pros and cons that we've talked about today, because they're pretty hardy, um, why do you think it's suitable for you to continue to carry out this role as your profession?
I didn't choose it. It's through the divine, right? It's like God's gonna kick my ass if I don't. And he it has, right? Has kicked my ass when I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to do this. It's like, no, no, bitch, you get out there. Like you signed up for this. We signed up for this. You are a messenger. I can't not do it if I don't want, even if I don't want to, right? And it's just a calling. I can't explain it other than that. Is it's a calling, and I want more people to realize the power that they have. And
Mm.
that took 40 something years for me to realize my power.
Well, we're glad that you did. And for those of you watching, we hope that you embrace yours as well. And I want to just check in with you and say, do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to add? I know we could sit here and have this conversation with you, with everybody for several hours because there's so many layers to every individual. But is there anything that you want to add? Maybe a final takeaway, something that you haven't said, something you want to expand upon?
I mean, I really just want to stress the importance of self acceptance and not fixing, that the journey is about accepting yourself more and more and more
Mm.
rather than fixing yourself. So, whatever your intention is for this work, I hope it's to love yourself more, to come home to yourself more, to allow yourself to take up space in this world for your essence and who you truly are in all of your edges, in all of your too muchness, in quotes, in all of your imperfections.
Mm. Well, I'm so certainly glad that you answered your calling and you heeded the call. For those that are watching and if you've been keeping up with all of the episodes, this seems to be a very common response through all of the people that are being interviewed is like, I can't. It's like fucking in my ear. It's annoying me. It's waking me up at 3 a.m. with random ideas. I can't go to sleep until I finish this project. It's just like it's a call from deep inside of you, the universe, God, divine, like they're supporting you, yes, but if you're receiving a call and you're watching this and you've been suppressing it and denying it, I think what Nick and I are saying here is like, just like answer and see what it has to say. You don't have to do anything right now. Like Nick said, just choose that. Just choose to just hear what it has to say.
Yes. Yes.
So if people are like, listen, I need to have some Nick in my life. I don't know where the fuck you've been, but give her to me. What do you have coming up? Where can people find you?
So my website is nicoleamaturo.com. You can find me on socials at Nicole Amaturo. Very easy, very easy. I make things very easy to find. I have my membership coaching club community that's called the Miracle House. Or sorry, I'm lying. It's not called the Miracle House. It's called the House of Miracles.
I like both.
Right? But it's called the House of Miracles, and it is basically doing the exact work that I just talked about on this whole conversation. So those are the big things right now for you to jump into.
Hmm. I'll put all of that information in the show notes so you can contact Nick, you can look her up, and you can just indulge yourself in your return to innocence. Thank you for being here, my friend. I love you deeply.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time, be good to yourself for fuck's sake. Live honestly in the dirty pretty of your life and choose to do the next right thing for you. Bye.